All righty, let's kick it off. So today we're going to be talking about how to effectively manage your Revit content. As always, with any of my webinars, I like to keep my chat open and the Q&A area. So please feel free to ask any questions or chat along the way. I like an interactive webinar. If you are watching this as a recording on YouTube, we do go back and check the comments. So take a moment if you're watching this, like and subscribe. We have a YouTube channel. It is ATG USA. Please check it out. I want to say over hundreds, probably actually over thousands of hours of content for free. That's an estimate, but I'm probably right in that sense on YouTube. So feel free to check out more videos. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Today, we're going to be covering how to effectively manage your Revit content. My name is Michael Chabe. I am an Autodesk certified instructor as well. So we will be pertaining to our Revit content, which is an Autodesk solution. And we will go through and start covering how we will manage our content in Hive CMS, which is a solution from CTC. My name is Michael Chabe. This is ATG presenting, and I'm a senior AEC technical specialist. So I come from industry. We'll talk about some workflows. And again, at any point, please feel free to use the chat in this Zoom. If you're watching a recording, leave a comment if you have any questions. We'll get back to you on that too. So what are we doing today? We're going to be looking for content management solutions. Maybe you're going through and looking at what could be a possible solution for us to use at our firm. Why do we need a content management solution? What is the purpose of a content management solution? And then we'll go through and talk about how we can add some content if we decide to go with Hive. Maybe we downloaded Hive, and how do we start utilizing Hive overall? Then we'll talk about how we can update that content. What does that look like? What is a content management solution? So let's kind of run that and take that back a step and say, why do we need a content management solution? What is the purpose of it? I've heard people talking about it. Heck, I'm in this webinar because someone told me to come into here, or I'm watching this video because someone pointed me in this direction. So let's just get a high level overview. We're talking pertaining specifically to Revit and why we may need a content management solution moving forward for our Revit templates, right? So typically when you're starting a project, you have a template that has content already added to it, or you have content stored like component families on your desktop or on a local drive that you're going through and accessing your content. Now that takes time, right? So sometimes some of the content isn't there. You have to go and search for it. It's not in the template. It's not already added, and you have to go and search for that content. That equates to time spent looking for unnecessary content in subfolders within other folders. Trying to find that. Maybe you go to an old project that has old outdated parameters. You just don't have the right content. Or maybe you're a BIM manager and someone's going through and downloading content from another site that isn't up to snuff on what we have for parameters and data that's driven within them. Right? Those are some typical use cases as you're going through and looking as to why I might need a content management solution. So today we're going to bring you into what Hive could do for you, eliminating all of that random folder to folder search, older project grabbing content, or maybe reducing the amount of time people spend looking for content elsewhere that is actually wreaking havoc in our projects when it's downloaded and brought in. Hive allows you as a BIM manager or an end user to search for content in a single source location. Hive is a storage for content, not just Revit files, which we're talking about today. So it can also store any file type a standard FTP site can store. So an Excel document, a PDF, I don't know, some training videos. If you want to store it in Hive, you can. Heck, now you can even store .dwg blocks. So no longer do you have to have an old template from a .dwg extension that you go and you grab, copy, paste content, or use the block selection to bring in any content. You can store all of that in one location in Hive. Hive also allows you to store your content in the cloud. So natively, if you have a content management solution, maybe it's not cloud source, it's only local to your drive of where you're at. You have to have access to all the content that you're trying to grab from. And in this day and age, We may have hybrid environments or people that work remotely. How can they access content without having to take that long time of downloading content and accessing your VPN over a LAN and WAN network? All of that takes time and equates to cost. With Hive, you can store content directly in the cloud, allowing you to grab content from there. Or if you're working maybe on a government project and you can't store content in a cloud source, Hive allows you to do either. So it could be hosted in the cloud or it could be hosted on a local drive network. Just be aware if it's hosted local, right? Everyone has to have access to that file for you to be able to grab it. But if it's in the cloud, it's actually going to cache a copy local. So each time it re-uploads or grabs and adds content into a new project, it's going to be even that much faster. You're already going to notice a noticeable difference in speed in grabbing content, searching for content already versus over VPN and grabbing that content from there. So that would be a great solution to going through and talking about what Hive does and how it would benefit you. The additional part to Hive, which we aren't covering today, but you can look on YouTube videos on our YouTube channel, would be the analytics that comes with it, right? So Hive isn't just a content management solution. It's also running analytics on all of your content for each user. It is also able to run analytics on your project. So if you want to do some forensics, how long it takes to sync to central for some folks, when was the last time somebody added content? It took, Joe over there 20 seconds to sync to central versus 5 seconds previously. When was the recently uploaded content? How much time is people spending or are people spending on projects? You can get a high scope from that and just say, hey, this is a certain amount of square footage property that we did before and it took X amount of time. Now we can get a cost estimate for future projects of that same square footage. All of that comes with Hive. So it's not just a content storage. It also has analytics driven behind it too. The added benefit as well, it's user-based. So if you need to add any users, you have that option of adding users from not within your organization. So if you ever had any consultants that you wanted to work with that needed access to your specific content that you're generating, you also have the option of going through and adding named users specific to those, or they can bring their own license to the table and be added into your libraries. Either of those ones work. And if you're looking more for any of that information, please reach out to us. There's a ton of YouTube content as well in terms of that admin items and going through and managing more of those analytic parts. But we're not here today to talk about that. We're going to talk about Hive as a solution from a content storage item and then going through and answering any questions. And again, at any point, if you have any questions, this is always interactive. That's how I always run my webinars. Please use the chat in the Q&A area if you do have any questions as we go along. This is for you all. And if you're watching this as a recording again, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Comment if you have a question or just comment to say hi. All right, let's move forward. We're going to hop right into a live demo. I do not believe in death by PowerPoint. We are finally done with our PowerPoint, so let's hop right in. So I'm going to go through and talk about how we can use Hive. I'm going to go directly into Revit. So it is, maybe I'll exit presentation mode. There we go. So the reason why, to reiterate why I'm doing that, is because it is an app on your Windows device. So you do not need to have Revit to open this. So this comes back to full circle of it being a managed content system. So a content management system for content outside of Revit. It does directly plug into Revit and it does directly plug into AutoCAD for those people that are using it as your block storage. So you also have that option too. But going back, it is a content management system for any type of content. So for instance, when I select it to open it, I have access to my content. So this can be on your Windows device. It could be on your laptop and on your desktop at work. So you can be mobile, getting access to the same content, of course, if it's cloud hosted. Perfect example is, hey, I want to go through and look for my LOD specs because I'm getting ready to spec out a project. Just to show you that it does work with PDFs. So this is a PDF. It also allows you to, and kind of just go into high level overview real quick. We'll get back more in the details, but you are able to attach content to existing content. So for instance, I have an Excel file here. So instead of having a folder that you go through and search for, right? So typically your workflow is going and looking for content. You go and look for your items. I'm going to go look for the LOD specs. Great, there it is. Oh, here's all of my folders within folders to grab content, versus I can just have my content one location. And for this specific one, LOD specs, it comes with a Excel file, but also I can attach things like the website, right? Maybe I want to go to the website. I can quickly select an attachment as a website so people can check and verify. But that's kind of a high level overview real quick, just for some item, but we're going to go through and just talk about Hive as a whole, and then we'll circle back to this. But once you open up Hive, you have the option of going through and being at your home screen. There's libraries. Those are kind of your organizational cards of storing where you want your content to be. You can kind of think of it as the hierarchy of your subfolder. And then all of your content lives in that subfolder. There is no subfolders within other folders. It's just a library with a name. So it's just a kind of a header. For instance, I have my structural content here. So I'll go to Michael's structural Hive. And once I click it, I have content directly in this one specific to this. Right. So it's just a library that stores all of your content in one location, allowing it for easier search. But the great thing about Hive is that it's like our good old Google search, right? Everyone has used Google here before, hopefully. If you haven't, please put it in the chat, because I'm just going to assume that everyone has. But you can go through and look for content. So for instance, I want to look for that LOD. So I'm going to go and look for that LOD spec. All I have to do is type in LOD, and it searches for all content that have or contain that item. Or you know what, for those maybe that are in the architecture world, they want to go and load some doors into their project. As I start typing in doors, it's going to have door tags. So you can tag your content, or I can use Revit-based categories. So as long as they fall into the Revit door category, I want to load that in. So now I have the option of going through and looking at all of my content that's specific to doors. So I can go through and search. Heck, you know what? I want to go back into my filters here, and I only want to look for specific content. And you can filter out your search to make it a little bit easier on yourself. Let's just make this full screen. While you're searching for content, right? So I can go to my filters here, and I can say, hey, I only want to look for the Revit doors category. I want to see Imperial units, what Revit versions. We won't do 2022 because I'm assuming there's not a lot in 2022. So you can look by specific versions of Revit if you wanted to, but you can go through and look for anything that's hosted by that specific item of option. So I can go through and look. Heck, you know what? I want to go through and look for, oh, this isn't doors. That's why. So I'm going to go look at doors. I was wondering why I had all this random content. But you can go through and look at all of your doors. And then if you want to load them into your project, you can. I don't currently have a project open. I'm going to start from here, because you can host your .rte project in here, or .rvt to start up, right? So let's say I'm getting ready to start a project. I'm going to go to my libraries. I have Michael's Hive. I could have searched for structural analysis up here in the search, or I could save searches that allows me to easily go and access recently used searches. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to open this up. You can right click and just say open or load or new. It's completely up to you. Going through and accessing this as well. So it's open up in Revit right here. Now I can go, I could keep playing from here, but I'm going to go and use it from the embedded app. If you go through the add-in, once it's installed, you have the option of going through the add-in. The only reason why it's a little bit different from the add-in is it's already going to set up filters for when you search for content per your version that you're in. So if I had multiple versions open, I can select the drop down to go to which version I want to go to, but you have that option. But you have the option to go over here and do filters. So if you wanted to go and look and set up any filters, you have those options of going through and searching by any filters that you have added. Or that have been added directly from here. So I can say, hey, I don't want that 2022, so I can just search for all, because by default, it'll auto search for only versions in that 2022, because that's what I currently have open. But again, if I had a different version open, which I'll open it up here in the background, we'll see that I'll have the option of adding into either of those content. But coming back full circle, what type of content can I store in here from Revit, right? Maybe we're designers and we want to know what type of content we can store in here. So you can store schedules. You can go in here and store any system families. So instead of having this bogged down heavyweight project template that we use that has a ton of content in it that is not really used in every single project, you can start storing everything you need in a project in here and have a lighter weight starting template. So from here, you can store system families, you can store any component families, detailed components. The only thing you can't store in Hive from a Revit project is a legend. Just like you can transfer it, quote unquote, if you wanted to. There's an add-in that Autodesk recommends, but you can't store that in Hive. Everything else is free game to store directly into Hive, allowing you to start a project from Hive content versus there. So just like I said earlier, you do have the option of adding it into whichever version you have open. So if you wanted to add it into a 2019 or 2022, searching for specific content for that specific item, you have those options of going through and looking and adding it directly into whatever one you have open. Let's go into 2022. I'm going to add and start a project from 2022. So I'm going to actually bring this down here so I don't see this. Right now in this starting project template, I don't have any drafting views or any schedules or any detail items, but I'm getting ready to start this project. What would be my workflow of going through and using Hive as my storage system and then adding content in? I'm going to hit the drop down here. I'm going to add my standard structural notes. Yes, I do have a structural background. So that's what we're starting with first. I'm going to apply because this isn't in 2022. So my filter was only filtering out and showing the version for 2022. I created this in 2019. So if I wanted to go, 2020, it even tells you that. It also tells you the embedded types or any parameters that were associated to it. This is a sheet with drafting views on it and the title block on it. And the drafting views are already in the organization manner of how I want them to show on the sheet. So all I have to do when I'm starting this project is I can just hit load. It's going to load all of these into here. It's going to upgrade because, of course, like I said, it was in 2020. Probably would create one. And I'll show you how to add new content too. For 2022, doesn't really matter though when it's coming from an older version for this instance, but it's going through and adding all of those drafting views, which we'll see here in a second. So all of these drafting views for my standard notes are here and the sheets already laid out with them in the correct location that I wanted them to be in. It already has my title block created. And again, they're already placed in where they need to go. So instead of having to go through and add my content in the old way or have these already in, maybe I have standard structural notes for concrete, standard structural notes for steel design, right? I don't need to have all those in my project, deleting which ones I don't need. I just add the ones I do need from Hive. Just like I said earlier, you do have the option also of searching for walls. Maybe I need to add a specific wall type. Let me clear my filters and go and search for walls. Let me see version. There we go. Boom. So as I go through and look for all my different walls, I can grab any type of walls that I need to. Maybe a shaft wall. Maybe I need to add my shaft wall directly into my project, which is the system family. All I have to do is right click on this and hit load, or I can drag and drop, and it's going to load this type directly into my project. So now I can go through. Yep, I know I can't create this in a sheet, so I'm going to go into my view. But now I can go and hit structure, and I can go to walls. I can go and look at my new walls that I have added. And here's that shaft wall that I directly added into my project. Now, if you had the view open where you could add things, so let's go through and just, grab another one. We'll just do a wall base. I can right click and say load. It's going to auto prompt you to be in the command with that specific type of wall already selected. So right here, I have that option. Oh, this is a group. This isn't. I'm guessing this is a detail group that they created, but it's not a wall. So if I go through and look at this, I could see, yeah, someone just put it as a wall, not a system family. But going through and looking at, maybe a stacked wall, exterior bearing wall 2, right? Go through, load this in. It's going to auto populate the command to already go through and start designing. So I don't have to worry about going through and selecting it. So you have those options of going through and adding your content from your project directly into Hive. And how do we accomplish that? Right? So we went through and talked about how we can add content, grab content. Let me open it up for a couple of seconds to see if anyone has any questions of going through and grabbing and selecting my content, searching for my content, the ability to go through and once you search for your content, adding any filters to help you search a little bit more efficiently. Again, you have your Revit filters here. You also have your CAD filters. So just like I said earlier, you have the ability to go through and store any AutoCAD.dwg extension content if you need to. Those are also options of storage directly in Hive. So if you do have any questions, I'll leave it up open to the floor, give you a couple seconds, and then we'll move on. But again, at any point, you do have the option of going through and adding any content that you need to. And again, at any point, if you have questions, feel free to ask too. But these are the options of filter. Again, when you select your content, you have the option of detail. You can go through and see any of the content. There is a rating system in here. I'm assuming that most folks have used Amazon before and give things 5 stars or 2 stars. They always ask you when you purchase something, hey, please rate me. But you do have the option of giving people different access rights. One access right in particular would be rating. So if you wanted to go through and rate the content and say, this is good quality content, or write a review like this parameter X, X, Y, and Z needs to be added, you have those options of going through and giving different access rights to different users, making them aware of what they're able to do with those and write reviews, give any ratings if they wanted to, in your different options of going through and selecting these. So that's another plus within Hive, the ability to rate the content, maybe write a review to give to specific content. You also get to see when the content was added and updated. So if I scroll down, I do have the option to see when it was updated. And we'll talk about updating our content after we added some content. So down here on the left-hand side, you have home, search, my saved searches. You also have add requests. So if you want to request content to be added, that's another way, as well as a BIM manager role. Maybe if some folks are listening in on those types of roles, they can go through and have their end users request the content. But let's go to add. So from the add, I have the option of adding content from projects or from files. It's up to you. Specifically for system families and things like I just showed with my sheets with detailed drafting views already in the same place, it needs to come from a project. And how can I go through and do that? So right now I had that structural project open with those views already in. So all I have to do is say add Revit project elements. It's going to populate a window open, allowing me to see what content from this project that I want to add into Hive. So I have the option of going through and looking. In this particular setting, I'm going to look at my sheets. And that sheet has everything already on it. So all I have to do is add the sheet to a item in here. So I'm going to add this sheet somewhere to one of my libraries. Then when I go through and add this to one of my libraries, I will also have the option of adding tags. So this is kind of like a tagging system that allows you to have your end users allowed to search a little bit easier. So instead of going through and searching for content that is based by the item of search, you can also add tags to help filter. So it's kind of like adding a filterable tag for your end users to make it a little bit easier for them to go through and search for content. But okay, so this one is obviously structure. So I'll go through that, and it's a template, right? It's part of a template of an outline of something that I'm going to go through and do. Now, what I'm able to do from here is process it. You'll see this button that says update existing content. Now, this wasn't added from a .rte before, it's .rvt, and it's in a different location, right? So if I wanted to originally update my drafting views in the sheet organization, I would have to go to the original path file location, update that one, reprocess it, and then it would update that original location. So that's how you update content. So traditionally, wherever the content is stored, right? So I'm grabbing the content and it's copying that content and putting it in the cloud. Now, if I want to update that cloud version, I need to update the original local copy, which you can see from the path. And then when I update that, I come into Hive, grab that same content and hit process, and it updates the original one in Hive. You have to be direct. That's the best part about this. People can't go and mess up content locally and it auto updates in the cloud. You have to deliberately say, I want it to upload. Now that fear is gone of people going through and accidentally changing something locally and it updating in the cloud. The other thing you can do is say you're only grabbing content from Hive. So you can hide all of your folders on your local drive. You can lock them down from the internet search of downloading content. and say, hey, here's Hive. And this is the only content you can grab is content directly from Hive. So that is also another option that you're able to go through and utilize that. The next one is going through and then updating, which we just talked about, but I can process this one. So I'm going to add it to here and any content that's updated, which I'm not going to go through and do. So it's going to go through and process this for us. Give a couple seconds, adding all those views. And boom, it'll tell me if any errors, warnings, or info, or nothing, or it was successful, which it was. Great. So now I can go back to my library. I can go and look there and see that content that has now been added to my library. So right here is those new notes. And now this one is in 2020 and 2022. So it actually did update the original one and gives me two options now. So I was unaware of that. I thought I had to come from the same project, which is great. So it actually added me two different versions. So now I can add the Revit 2022 version or the Revit 20 version. I can select from which one I want to add into my project. So I learned something new, and we all learned something new together, which is great. And it is cloud hosted. So there's a check letting me know that I don't have to worry about where I'm at to add the content. So again, you have those options of adding your items to there. Now, let's say some file paths have changed. You can get an export of your content for your file paths. And then you can update your file paths through the Excel and just hit update. So it'll say, hey, point to that Excel folder that we just gave you if you change the file path. So if you had a bunch of files move to a different location, you can go through and just change those file paths and update them. That'll update the file path. This doesn't update the content. And then when you're in here and you process that content, it'll update your content when you're going through and updating that content. But that's going through and adding content, grabbing content, updating content, the ability to go through and search why we may want a CMS system in the future and how it would benefit us in the future moving forward within using Hive. Now I'll open this time up for any questions around the use case of Hive. If we have any questions, of course, we can go off on tangent. I can go through and answer any of those. But again, this is all about Hive and the ability to go through and save, search for content, update your content. How would we go through and update that content directly in Hive? And then also the ability to search for content and why we may want a content management system, right? That's one of the keywords here. What is the need? Why do we need this content? And what is the benefit of it? And hopefully I answered that all for you here today. If you had any further questions and you're watching this on the tube, it's an older video, please comment so that we can answer those from there as well. But let's return back to my slide. So 1 second. Good old switcheroo. Thank you today for joining me in this webinar. This webinar is now complete. A recording will be posted on ATG USA YouTube, so please check it out. This is an open time for Q&A. It doesn't have to be around Hive. It could be around anything. Again, my name is Michael Chave. I'm an ACI. I'm a senior AEC technical specialist here at ATG. Follow me on LinkedIn if you can. See me post some things. I post things about Revit, design, structure design. I also post things about Bluebeam. I'm a Bluebeam certified instructor, but this is not pertaining to Bluebeam, so I didn't speak to that. But if you do have any questions about that, follow me on LinkedIn, search for me there, and you can ask me questions there. But I'll give it a couple of minutes before I head out for you to ask any questions. But thank you all for joining me today. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you listening in and asking any questions.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.